Welcome, everybody. My name is Jay Gupta. I'm the president of AlmaConnect. We are a technology company based out of San Francisco, and we build products and services that help manage and engage alumni for academic institutions, nonprofits, also corporate clients. Among our products is a media scanner that tracks alumni when they make news. In this session, we'll focus on news, how it can be leveraged in prospect research, and what are some of the challenges that get in the way. We'll also share best practices that are being used across our clients. And in fact, I'm happy to be joined today by one of our clients, Javier Arguello, who will discuss the different ways in which news monitoring has helped his organization. After that, we will love the opportunity to hear from you and address any questions that come up. So with that said, let's dive into the topic at hand. They say the only thing constant is change, but yet the pace of change in current times is unprecedented. The information age has almost created a world where time is compressed. What used to happen in years now happens in days, and that is reflected in the speed at which wealth is getting created. This is a time when startups turn into unicorns in a matter of months. Fortunes are minted almost overnight through a rush of IPOs and SPAC activities. We hear of crypto billionaires. Time was when it took an average of 18 years to create a fortune. But now we're looking at 500 new people entering the Forbes list of billionaires just in this last year alone. Heck, even a pandemic ended up ultimately being a source of wealth creation for many. An underlying theme of what we are seeing out there is that speed is beating size. And that theme is rippling across industries and occupations. And so it is very much applicable within prospect research itself. It's not about how big your team is or how big a budget you have to work with. A large part of your success hinges on the speed at which you can execute. How quickly can you pick up on relevant information and seize opportunities before others do? On the one hand, it's a comforting thought that you don't have to compete with each other in a typical manner. For instance, your alum is your alum. It's a captive audience that has an exclusive connection with you that can't be substituted by somebody else. But on the other hand, there is competition. Sometimes it's an alum who's being cultivated by 2 or 3 different institutions where they got their schooling and their bachelor's or versus their master's degrees. Sometimes it's a prospective donor who is simply selecting across various causes and various organizations, of which you could have been one if only you had a first to donor strategy. Mackenzie Scott, after her divorce from Jeff Bezos, has been on a charity spree. She just recently gave away $4.1 billion in donations to nonprofits and higher educational institutions. There were a couple of dozen names on that list. What can you do to make sure you get on such lists? If you're going to have a first to donor strategy, it starts with being first to discover so that you can be first to act. The most practical tool for this is news media monitoring, whether it's a startup getting funded or a company going public or a significant equity position being divested or an important and influential position being filled, or even some award or recognition. It has to be getting covered by some media source somewhere. It may not make national news. It may make local news. It may not make local news. It may just be significant enough to be covered by a trade magazine or some industry-specific niche publications. Sometimes it may have got coverage just in some influential blog, or maybe merely in a company blog. If there's a way to track all of these media sources, you can be certain that you won't be among those organizations that find out months later or years later, or maybe never, that an alum or a potential prospect should have been on your list of high potential donors. Another way to look at news is that it can paint a profile of the prospect, so you better understand their interest and their motivation. They say information is power. Well, in this case, news can give you that power to learn a lot about a person before even ever speaking to them. You can find out what causes they are involved in or how they've been spending their money. The key point to note with news is that by nature, it's timely. No publication wants to report what happened a few months back. All news publishers are working furiously and competing against each other to be the first to report the news, no matter how significant or how minor that news might be. So again, all you have to do is make sure you have the ability to listen to them. If you're using the right tool, you put yourself in a position where you can capitalize on the news properly. A congratulatory message for an award carries a lot more weight if it is delivered that same week. Discover that same news after 6 months and you're unlikely to be able to do anything with it because you don't want to look silly. News doesn't always have to be a source of actionable intelligence. Oftentimes news is valuable for its own sake. Your institution wants to see your alumni getting covered by the media, as long as it's not bad publicity. It builds your brand. It helps you with marketing. Many departments within your organization stand to benefit from news monitoring. News is needed for the alumni newsletter or even on your website. Your alumni themselves want to see what other alumni are up to, especially when they are accomplishments that everybody can take pride in. Which isn't to say that there aren't challenges. If monitoring tens of thousands of prospects across tens of thousands of news sources sounds daunting, that's because it is. To start with, if you're going to search based on just a name, you soon run into all kinds of problems with names that are too common. What happens when you start getting flooded with hundreds of news articles, out of which more than half are not even for your prospects, but just some false matches? Do you spend hours sifting through them to weed out the irrelevant ones? More often, what happens is that you just don't have the time or energy to deal with it. So you glance around a bit, but mostly ignore the whole lot. Or yet another alternative is to set the search criteria to look for your institution being mentioned in the article. Trouble with that is that most news articles won't mention your institution. How often do you see the alma mater being mentioned? Maybe once in 20 articles. So use this method and you're missing out on 95% of relevant news and actionable intelligence that's available out there. Not that media monitoring is relevant just for prospect researchers and advancement professionals. Many industries, from investments to marketing, from law firms to brand agencies, all kinds of occupations have a requirement for media monitoring. So you would think that then this is a pretty well-served space with lots of brilliant technology. But actually, that's precisely the problem. Because there is so much demand across so many industries, most of the media monitoring companies have built their technology as a one-size-fits-all solution. But just like the general physician is going to be of limited use to you, is not going to perform a heart operation for you, so too, in order to get to the heart of your specific requirements with an advancement, you need a solution that is built, that has been built for you, that is for prospect researchers. And when it comes to customizing a solution for your requirements, there are some tools available that give you the option to do the customization yourself. But usually that means having to construct and maintain Boolean searches. If this functionality is to be used correctly, it has to be constantly optimized though. For example, you have to constantly update the search string to cover various aliases, or you have to constantly add negative keywords to avoid repeatedly pulling up false positives. Again, when it's left up to you to do it, typically what happens is that you work on it in the beginning and then you just let it run the way it is without bothering to constantly optimize it. We believe the best approach is for that Boolean search construction and constant optimization to be done automatically using machine learning technology. But for that, you need a solution that works with algorithms written specifically for your use cases. The wider you cast your net, the more the requirement for technology that is intelligent enough to process vast amounts of data efficiently. One way to simplify the problem is to limit the number of media sources you monitor. But a robust and advanced solution can run in the opposite direction and seek to constantly increase the number of media sources they track. And there are a lot of media sources that can track. AlmaConnect tracks 125,000 media sources, and we are increasing this number every week. Many media sources happen to be premium publications that need you to have a subscription. There are third-party services that can provide you a sort of a master subscription that can unlock content for many publications. The problem with that is, firstly, they won't cover all publications. And secondly, this can turn out to be quite expensive. Again, if the technology is built smartly, you can achieve a desired outcome through a happy compromise. All publishers allow for some sample or excerpt of their content to be pulled so that they can publicize the content. So what AlmaConnect does is that it pulls the obvious content, such as the headline and the main image in the article, of course, but we use our remaining allowance to snip out that portion of the article where your alum was mentioned. That means that in most cases, for your purposes, you can simply see the snippet and know whether the news is valuable and actionable. When you're tracking news widely, it means you are monitoring international media sources. These can present some peculiar challenges of their own. There is the inevitable language barrier in many countries, but then there are also other complexities. For instance, in Chinese culture, it's common to have two names, one that is used in China and another one that is typically an anglicized one, which is used in Western countries. So your alum may be making news in an altogether different name in their country. If you have a diverse list of prospects, you want these problems solved. At AlmaConnect, we have worked on aliasing extensively so that we can handle variations in people's names and even company names, actually. So another issue with a wide net is the sheer volume of news, a lot of which may have to be distilled. For instance, the same news may be big enough to be covered across 8 different media sources. So does it help you to receive all 8 articles featuring the same prospect for the same news? Or sometimes there is a high-profile prospect who gets featured in the news almost daily. So do you want to keep seeing every bit of news they make every day? This can be a problem, but it doesn't have to be your problem. If a solution is customizable, it can be configured for your preferences. And that's the level of personalization that AlmaConnect offers. If news is so beneficial for so many people across so many departments within an organization, and if it is being sourced in huge volumes through powerful purpose-built technology, invariably it can create a challenge for someone whose job then becomes to look through all the news and determine what needs to be forwarded to whom. But again, if anyone cares to address this pain point, it can be solved. We do it by using smart tagging that automatically forwards relevant news to the relevant people. So for instance, if a certain prospect has been assigned to a specific gift officer, news on that prospect will get passed directly to that gift officer. It can be a big time saver for multiple people who don't have to look at something that wasn't relevant to them. By that same token, we can also integrate with your CRM so that even the process of archiving the news article against a prospect's profile can be automated. The news can be distributed not just among specific people, but even to specific departments. So for instance, news that is relevant for marketing purposes can go straight to the marketing department. In this way, the full potential of news monitoring as a powerful tool for prospect research can be unlocked by overcoming the various challenges with smart and purpose-built technology that saves time while delivering better results. Let's take a closer look at some real examples where AlmaConnect's technology is helping solve the problem. This is what a typical news feed looks like when accessed through the AlmaConnect portal. It would keep getting updated as news gets picked up from various places. Take a look at this news article. It's on James Coogan, who is one of the alums at this university. The article was picked up from a source called mdm.com. I'd never heard of it, but I did look it up, and it seems to be some sort of research blog. We're tracking over 125,000 media sources, so the news can come from all sorts of publishers. We would pull up the obvious things from the article, the main image, the headline, but we also pull out the excerpt specifically where the name of this prospect was mentioned. So at a quick glance of that snippet, you can determine whether or not you want to click on the article and land on the original news source to read the full length version. In this case, James Coogan has been newly appointed as a CFO of this company. So this seems like it would be significant news that you wouldn't want to miss. To make sure of that, we add a one-line synopsis that further helps you manage your attention. Sometimes the prospect is the focus of the news, like in this case, while sometimes the prospect is just mentioned tangentially. We will call that out. We will also do some smart tagging to help direct the news to relevant departments. Like in this case, the tags applied are prospect identification and alumni relations. Here's another news picked up from freightwaves.com, which appears to be some sort of logistics focused publication. The alumnus, Daniel Simon, his company has raised funding. None of these articles feature the name of the alma mater. So this isn't news that would get picked up if the search criteria depended on that. Also, names like Daniel Simon are common enough that you need to be sure this is your prospect, not some other random Daniel Simon. We make sure that every news article that ends up in your feed is for your prospects. This one has been picked up from moneymanagement.com.au, meaning it happens to be an Australian publication. The alumna, Dean Stewart, who happens to be the CEO of this company, has been awarded a $254,000 bonus. Unless you're tracking international news, you're not likely to pick up this kind of information, certainly not in a timely manner. Remember that timing matters in prospect research. Let's take a look at a client who has actually given us the names of their assigned prospects. So in this case, the news article automatically got flagged by the system. It's news about an acquisition, and the article was picked up from thestreet.com. This is news picked up from a local publication, San Diego Business Journal. It's significant news. The alumnus has been appointed CEO, but the company is not big enough for this to make national news. So it's a good thing that we are covering all the local media sources. Otherwise, you wouldn't pick this up. And guess what? This alumnus wasn't an assigned prospect. We know that because otherwise the system would have flagged it as such, since we have the list of assigned prospects from this client. Now, maybe there were reasons in the past why this alum wouldn't make it to the list, but maybe those reasons have changed now with the passage of time and the changes in his career trajectory. Picking up the news at least puts him on your radar when the timing would be right to explore this further. Now, Michael Wells here is an assigned prospect. He's the chief executive of this publicly traded company, and the news article here indicates that he recently sold some of his shares. All this happened in UK, and the news has been picked up from uinvest.co.uk, which sounds like some British financial publication. The client, in our case here, Christy Henry, she's the director of prospect research, has in fact annotated this article. You can see her remark: helped me rate this prospect. Harder to do because he's in UK. Let's move to yet another organization, the alumnus of the university, and our system has verified that he is from this university, despite a common name like William Robertson. This alumnus is on their list of known prospects. That's how this organization refers to their prospects. So the system has flagged this news article, which got picked up from the lincolnianonline.com. No idea what sort of publication that is, but Similar to the previous news article I showed you, this one is also about selling off shares. He happens to be a senior executive at this public company. This one has been picked up from boisedev.com. Seems like some niche local publication. Something to do with ownership changes at this business. The alum is the president. The client, John Garrow, who's the director of prospect research, he saw this to be significant enough to alert Kimberly Hankin, who is the director of development at this organization. And the same organization, here's an alumna, Mary Powell, whose news we picked up from etradewire.com, meaning some sort of press release. She's a partner at a law firm, and she just got recognized in the 2021 list of super lawyers in Northern California. She happens to be a known prospect. So I would imagine someone in the advancement team could reach out to her in a timely manner with a note of congratulations. Now, if you're wondering what this news feed can look like for your organization, there's a very simple way to find out. We are offering free trials to all APRA attendees. So we welcome you to take advantage of this offer. As I mentioned earlier, there's a very simple way to test the potential for your own organization. And that's through the free trial that we are offering. Just reach out to me and I'll help set it up for you. The way it would work is you would provide us a sample list of your alumni, or we can make that easy on you by just going and looking up a list of your alumni on LinkedIn. We'll set up the news feed for you, configured for you as per your preferences, and then we'll start sending you the news on your alumni for the duration of the trial. Simple as that.